Namaste. Schizoid personality is a person who walks up to a woman, I'm in love with you, but that's none of your business. They keep away from emotions and closeness. Today, we shall have discussion and comparative reflection on schizoid, histrionic, and avoidant personality disorder. To discuss the subject with us, we have our subject expert, psychoanalysis consultant, Mr. Himanshu Vaidya. Namaste.
Namaste.
Can we start with what histrionic, schizoid, and avoidant personality disorders are all about?
The avoidant personality disorder is about avoiding relationships, avoiding emotional closeness, uh, avoiding situations where one has the fear that one would get evaluated and judged negatively. And that means you avoid a large number of opportunities and challenges. And that severely impairs the quality of your life. The schizoid personality disorder also avoids people and emotional closeness, but the fear that he has of relationships is because of a different nature. The avoidant person fears being negatively judged, whereas the schizoid person fears pain coming out of emotional closeness. So the avoidant has the fear of humiliation and his inferiority, whereas the schizoid person has a fear of emotional pain and his sensitivity. The histrionic personality is a so the schizoid person keeps a distance from most of the people and prefers a very lonely job, uh, at times even living all alone. But there is a sense of self assurance and confidence in the schizoid personality, which is not there in the avoidant, where inferiority is very strong. So, both of them are avoiding, but to different degrees and for different reasons. The avoidance of the schizoid makes him more asocial, but he is fairly confident. The fear is largely of emotional pain. The template is emotional closeness brings pain. Whereas for the avoidant, the fear is of being negatively judged, of being mocked at, of being humiliated, and of feeling shameful of his inferiority. So the fear, the avoidance is more active, more intense, and the reason is more out of inferiority. The histrionic, on the other hand, does things which are dramatic and seductive. And that is because the template is that as I am not good enough. I must do something dramatic and seductive so that I become interesting enough and my objects of desire will not go away, will not leave me, and those who have left me might come back.
Mhm.
So, one way to explain all the three is to start from the object loss in early life and apply the valley junction model, where the object loss would lead to uh, the template of inferiority and therefore avoidance. The object loss can also lead to very high emotional pain and therefore the schizoid. It can also lead to the fear, the feeling that I am not good enough and I must do something dramatic and seductive to be good enough because I am not good enough as I am. And that is the history of it. So all the three can originate in early life object loss, not necessary always. There may be other causes also, but 60 to 70% of the time we see early object loss leads to many of the personality disorders, including these three, and because they can be explained 70% of the time as originating in the same early life phenomena of object loss, but the object loss leads to different intensities of different feelings, and different ego defenses are applied upon those feelings, and therefore you result in different sort of personality disorders, but they can all start with object loss in almost 60 to 70% of the cases. And therefore, it is uh, instructive to do a comparative reflection upon the three. And it is also because of this reason that they may have a common genesis, that each personality disorder does have features of the other. It is not a watertight compartment. So you may have one personality disorder in the front, which is the real one, the major one, and then features of other personality disorders.
Right.
Because in the valley state, you will have one or two very intense uh, effects and others which are minor effects. So this is how we can have a comparative reflection upon all the three and see how each of them respond differently to object loss based upon their subjective personality constitution.
Mr. Vaidya, coming to the pathogenesis and the root causation, as you started off with object loss, we would like to know why study these three disorders together, and is there any relationship other than the pathogenesis between the three?
Uh, First is the pathogenesis, where you have a common junction point of the three.
Hmm.
Second is, it is interesting to see uh, how the three respond to almost a similar kind of fear in some way, and on some points they are different. Let us look at it. For example, schizoid and avoidant, both of them keep away from emotional closeness. Both of them keep away from society for different reasons. So the keeping distance of a schizoid and the not going to a social occasion of an avoidant, both of them find it difficult to have adequate number of social closeness, social acquaintances with adequate closeness. So we see how two of them respond uh, to the fear of closeness in different ways. One responds with the fear of inferiority and humiliation. The second responds with the fear of emotional pain. So one has a problem of self-esteem and the second has the problem of sensitivity. Now come to the schizoid. Schizoid, if you look into the characteristics, almost looks like a combination of avoidant and narcissistic. Because like the avoidant, we would like to avoid emotional closeness and many of the social occasions, but he does not have inferiority. He has some sort of a confidence, almost like a faint picture of the narcissist.
All right.
So you look at the schizoid as almost being a, a combination with some traits of the avoidant, some traits of the narcissist, and of course some traits unique to his own pathology. And then we come to histrionic, where the object loss, right, which is felt by all the three, is responded to very differently. So to the object loss, the avoidant says, never get close, it brings pain, and I am not good enough, and therefore I have been left.
Hmm.
The avoidant responds to the object loss by saying, I am not good enough, I have been abandoned, and my not being good enough will be pointed out, and I will be humiliated. The schizoid responds to object loss by saying, closeness brings pain, always keep emotional distance. And the histrionic responds to object loss by saying, the object loss has happened because as I was not good enough. Let me do something dramatic and seductive so that I become good enough. In that sense,
That can be reaction formation also to the sense of inferiority.
yes, but in that sense, the histrionic is very positive.
Hmm.
There is some optimism in the histrionic. He has not given up. The schizoid and the avoidant have to some extent given up. So they are more pessimistic personalities. The most pessimistic would be avoidant. The schizoid still
Hmm.
has some confidence in himself, although not in the emotionally close relationships in the outside world.
Right,
Whereas the
right.
histrionic that way is a very cheerful, lively person. He is still doing things, he is still hopeful, and therefore he is on the positive side with lot of energy and creativity to do dramatic things. And correspondingly,
Hmm.
life also is more colorful and more lively.
Right.
So in the avoidant, we have anxiety of humiliation. In the schizoid, we have the anxiety of emotional pain. And in the histrionic, we have the object lost, which has to be undone, no matter by being how dramatic and seductive. So you see a difference of optimism, you see a difference of responding to object loss, and you see a difference of confidence. In the histrionic, like in the schizoid, you can easily have traits of narcissism. And this is where a comparative reflection becomes very important because you can easily have histrionicity and narcissism traits of them together.
Hmm.
And similarly, within the schizoid, we may have hidden traits of narcissist. And in the avoidant, we see at times very surprisingly that there are hidden narcissistic traits which come up when the situation changes, the person heals, or the situation becomes quite different than what it used to be. And just as we are surprised when we see narcissistic traits in the dependent, we also are surprised when we see narcissistic traits in the avoidant coming up in deep therapy or after a considerable period of time, especially after getting some success.
So
So,
true. In fact, I'm reminded of one of the case where a person who was diagnosed with schizoid. When I talked about schizoid and some traces of narcissism, he just owned up narcissism. He said, "Yeah, I think narcissism goes well." And where it is a kind of a pathology which was best among them, where he verified being diagnosed with traces of narcissism as well.
yes.
So that's so relevant here.
So, apart from the loneliness of the profession, which the schizoid selects, where he lets go of the opportunity of admiration from others.
Hmm.
If we remove this, if we don't put focus on this trait, there is one common thing between the narcissist and the schizoid, apart from grandiosity, and that is,
Mhm.
of course, the degree is different. The schizoid grandiosity would be far lesser than the narcissistic grandiosity, but there is a common element to both. They have very intense object relations inside the mind, but very weak relations in the interpersonal outer world.
Okay. Okay.
It's not that they don't relate, they relate internally very intensely, but not in the outer world in an interpersonal sense. The whole relation is intrapsychic.
Okay.
And I think that is also something that the schizoid shares with the narcissist. And on this point, they are quite opposite to the histrionic, for whom everything is melodramatically out there.
Right. Right. So, coming to the interesting part of psychoanalysis, how the school of psychoanalysis would explain the causation of these three different disorders? Does it include in the same spectrum or how it proceeds with it?
Yeah, we start off by looking at one, it can be over the time learning that the parents may have behaved in a particular way where certain things are accepted or not accepted. or the parents themselves show certain traits which are internalized. So
Mhm.
one explanation is over the time learning. The second explanation is of object loss, which brings us to the valley junction model, that because of the object loss, you have a valley state where intense negative emotions are active. And what is active is one, anxiety, two, rage, three, powerlessness, fourth, object loss, fifth, feeling of abandonment, sixth, inferiority, seventh, helplessness, and eighth, pain. And
Mhm.
depending on which of these affects is the strongest, or if two or three are strong, how they are comparably strong. And whatever is the strongest of that, based upon the rest of the personality, which ego defense is applied,
Mhm.
that leads to a unique kind of personality disorder. So, in the valley state of the histrionic, the object loss is the most important, and the inferiority is second most important. But in the rest of the personality, the person is positive. He is resourceful. He is creative. He feels that there is something he can do and undo and come out of the valley state and regain the lost object. He is not like avoidant who does not give a reaction formation to inferiority but accepts it. And after accepting it, there is a slight reaction, a very small reaction of grandiosity which is inside. Not of the type that we see in narcissism, but a very micro amount of it. And he is therefore constantly afraid of this inferiority being pointed out. He does not have the positivity of the histrionic to use reaction formation or to use creative seduction or creative melodrama. He is a pessimist, he has given up. He realizes that there is nothing, I cannot do anything about this inferiority, I just have to live with it. So he
Is a
accepts,
dead end.
yeah. So he does not have the positive resources of the histrionic. The schizoid, for him, the emotional pain is the most important. And he forms a template, emotional closeness brings pain. But he has a confidence. He uses uh, reaction formation on inferiority and uses it in a micro way, in a moderate way,
Mhm.
slightly more than
Mhm.
the avoidant, much lesser than the narcissist,
Right.
to create a kind of a superiority. So although he is cut off from others, into himself he does not feel inferior, he feels slightly superior. So this is one way of looking at it, the valley junction model based upon objectives. Then we come to the Oedipus, the Freudian explanation. And there we see that the avoidant is actually a completely castrated person, that he has not been able to resolve the Oedipus, and he is a completely castrated person, and he was not able to give up the Oedipal object, and therefore the castration actually happened, and now he really believes he is castrated, and therefore not bullying. And he
There,
also,
the sense of inferiority comes in.
sorry,
There, from there, the sense of inferiority comes in.
yes,
Totally been
that would be a Freudian take on the inferiority. From where is the inferiority coming? So it would be like the Oedipus, he has actually been castrated, and this castration could have then be fortified by a very critical parent of the same gender over a period of time after the
okay.
Oedipal phase.
Hmm.
The histrionic feels that the Oedipal object can be regained. So the histrionic accepts the loss of the Oedipal object but is positive that if I do something melodramatic, I can regain the lost object. So person is still caught in the Oedipus, not resolved, but is hopeful
Okay.
of emerging victorious in the Oedipus. And then we have the schizoid, where the pain of loss in the Oedipus is so high that he never tries to go close to anybody. So he has been able to resolve to some extent the Oedipus, but at a huge cost of emotional pain. So for the schizoid, the Oedipal triangle was less about sexuality, more about emotional attachment. So it is the object loss element of the Oedipus and not the erotic loss of the Oedipus, which is the core issue for the schizoid that we stepped there.
Mm.
Then we look at Kohut, where Kohut says that the early life inability to create a healthy self leads to defective selves. And the defective self can take any of these forms.
Okay.
The histrionic, any personality disorder can be there
Mm. Mm.
because the early life good objects were not around, and therefore these unhealthy selves have got created. So the whole idea will be to restart the process, arrested process, and help the person reach the healthy self. Uh, we can also have an explanation of repressed negative effects, where we say that severely repressed affects are leading to this kind of personality disorders, and they may or may not be situated in psychoanalytic events. They may be building up over time, and one of the explanations of such kind of thing can be where the uh, negative effects towards the parents, particularly the murderous and torturous rage that ISTDB talks about. It is the difficulty of those effects which somehow are acted upon by the regulatory mechanism of the ego, and the defensive action then is the personality disorder, or at least some of the core effects that the personality disorder tries to manage. So these are the various explanations that we have of the three disorders that we are talking about. And with regard to histrionic, there is will be also an element of uh, difficulty in impulse control to some extent. Not always intense, but often it can be. And that may have to do with psychologically unstable parents, where the parents are rapidly changing without adequate reasons. And that brings in that lability in the histrionic.
Mm.
So these are some of the ways in which psychoanalysis tries to explain these three disorders, and based upon which school one is in or the case history in front of oneself, one can arrive at the pathogenesis.
So, Mr. Vaidya, when you talked about the different theories and their application with regard to the disorders here, how the school of psychoanalysis would proceed with the healing of these disorders?
Uh, these disorders are, compared to the antisocial personality disorder, very safe to treat. So what we talked about in the last session, compared to
Right.
this is a very safe space we are working in.
Mm.
And uh, two of the three, the avoidant and the schizoid, essentially need a safe space. They need to learn it is safe to connect to somebody, it is safe to be close to somebody. So they have to be taken in a very cohesion way, so that they will require a very long cohesion period before the real interpretative work can begin. With regard to histrionicity, the core is about stability, and the core is about finding the good stable object. So one can take the cohesion approach there also, no problem at all. But if the ego strength is high in histrionic, one can put aside the initial cohesion period or shorten it and go into the more eclectic interpretative one
Okay.
and take up any school, Freudian, Kleinian, or whatever school applies based upon the case history and the pathology of the person. But in any case, whether we start cohesion for a short time and then go into the classical psychoanalytic work, or we have a long cohesion part and then we go into the psychoanalytic work. In any case, we would be looking at least twice or thrice a week for 2 years for these personality disorders to be really made a difference to, because these are not something episodic which can be
Mm.
easily dealt with,
Mm.
and therefore we have to be prepared for long work, repetitive work, and especially it becomes very delicate when when negative transference happens, or when the valley state or something near to it, which is at the core of the pathology, you start getting near to. That is where, either because of negative transference or because of getting close to the core of the problem, the internal distress is so intensely felt by the person that many people eject out of the therapy. And this is something that either we can do in psychoeducation before we start the therapy, or we go very slow and we prepare the person that this is going to happen, or the person has to be very strong. But this phase, because when we are very near to cure, that is where the highest risk of ejecting out of therapy happens. So this is something we have to be very careful about all personality disorders, and the three we are talking to also, and within the three, the highest probability of ejection would be from a schizoid.
Okay.
On an average, of course, you
Mhm.
always have variations, but on an average, and least would be from a histrionic. Because once the histrionic sees you as a good stable object, his coming to you may not be so regular, but ejection is less compared to the paranoid and the schizoid.
Okay.
In case of paranoid, if the ego strength is good, then the ejection is low, lower compared to schizoid. But if the ego strength is low of the paranoid, of the sorry avoidant, of
Avoid
the
it.
avoidant,
Yeah.
then one can have even higher rejection rate of avoidant compared to the schizoid. So this is how we would look at it, and uh, like in all personality disorders, complementing the psychoanalytic work with CBT or DBT, and when one has done the cognitive work and only affect removal remains, using some of the ISTDP, emotion centered techniques, or psychodrama techniques, that kind of complementation, it helps very well in accelerating the healing process.
Um, Mr. Veda, we have discussed in our previous videos also about the holistic healing basket. So, how holistic healing can help with the proceed with the healing of these disorders?
Uh, all the three are very interesting from holistic healing point of view,
Okay.
because the avoidant is in need of encouragement,
Mm.
and therefore uh, positive psychology, positive reinforcement, visualization, going into social groups, doing some social work, getting into a circuit, into a collectivity, without being criticized. Experiences of reality which are counter to the imagined experiences inside. They provide the counter evidence to the negative fantasies inside. And therefore, this aspect of holistic healing is very important for the avoid. For the histrionic, the insight on lability is very important. And for that, psychodrama is very important. To generate that insight on lability. For the schizoid, uh, psychodrama as well as the real social groups are very important, especially in case of what is called the social support groups, where everyone or at least a majority of people have a particular problem and the rest of the people are supporting them and they are supporting each other. Because for the schizoid, the practice is very important of closeness. Apart from the intellectual insight and inner affective catharsis, the practice is very important. And it is not easy. So bit by bit you do it. So psychodrama, uh, certain breathing techniques, acupressure, homeopathy, in the social support groups, as well as some element of involvement in social work.
Mhm.
All this put together, or whatever of this works for a particular person, it's a very good combo to complement the central psychoanalytic work with some help from CBT, DBT, and ISTBT. So that if you keep as center and the larger layer of these additional tools, many of which are such that the person can use, learn and use on himself. For example, Reiki, pranic healing, Tai Chi, relaxation techniques, breathing techniques. The person can learn and use it on himself. He is not dependent on any healer. These things are very easy to learn
Right.
because we are looking at a long-term healing plan. Nothing is going to happen in
Mm.
1 or 2 months. So when we are looking at such a long-term healing, drawn-out healing, uh, self-learning and self-dependence is very important. So this
Indeed.
entire basket of holistic healing tools uh, contributes significantly to the quality of life during the process of healing, building up certain assets, and accelerating the process of healing.
Right. So, other than awareness and acceptance, how important is patient education with regard to these three specified disorders?
Uh, it is very important because the three important elements in any personality disorder issue are first, recognition that there is a problem. That it is
Hmm.
not just being himself, he is not just different, it is a sick situation.
Hmm.
So acceptance, awareness, number one, number two, acceptance, number three,
Hmm.
uh, knowing the price one pays, and number
Hmm.
four, getting the sickness ego dystonic.
Right.
These things are very important because making something ego dystonic is very important. So that at least those behaviors and thoughts which are reinforcing the pathology, they are stopped.
Hmm. True.
What has happened, but at least new reinforcement does not happen.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then secondly, it is very important to tell the person what possibly are the causes, so that collectively we can work upon what in discussion both of them see to the healer and the patient, both of them can arrive at
Hmm.
some fact based upon the history and the way the sickness manifests itself as to what can be the possible cause and what how one can go about healing.
Hmm.
Three, if person is educated well, he can report the right things.
True.
Fourth, he knows what is working and not working. So we don't try what is not working.
Hmm.
And fifth, he equips himself for with holistic healing tools and is able to synergetically create a basket of tools. Sixth, he knows what is the price of it in social terms and in family terms. And this has to be at the back of his mind when the pathology is in full display. And seventh is uh, he has to do some remedial if something goes out of control. So he
Mm-hmm.
may act out in many times he may act out and the results will be there in society. And then either you can just shut your eyes to the result or you can try to do some reparation. I think if the reparation is done genuinely, in many cases it's possible. One is able to minimize the social cost of this pathology. So these are some of the issues which uh, you can manage much better if the person is psychoeducated adequately.
As you just rightly mentioned that, certain times there people they go and live out the repressed self to accelerate the healing, or maybe due to the disorder itself. So then that brings in the picture that caregivers are also there, the family is there, the immediate social circle and acquaintances. So what is the role which they play where we need to educate the family and the caregivers?
It is very important because in these three particular disorders, the family members have to be explained that the causes of this are deep. This is not a tantrum. This is not something that the person can just remove from himself by willpower. Because this is often a misunderstanding of the family members that it is a decision that you are taking which is resulting in X. So if you decide not to be schizoid, you will not be a schizoid. If you decide not to be histrionic, you will not be histrionic. If you decide not to be avoidant, you will not be avoidant. So we have to explain them that these are not outcomes of conscious decision making. There are very deep unconscious reasons against which the will of the man is powerless. And it requires long-term work by the person and the therapist and the family and the society to really get a change in that situation. So it is not arena of the conscious thoughts and will.
True.
Thirdly, this requires investment in terms of time, cost, and energy. If you want to heal, there is no escaping the investment. So the family member has to support the person's investment in terms of time, cost, and energy. There is no way out. Otherwise, you be prepared to live with the consequences of what it is. Fourth, the family members have to look out for what is working and not working and have
Mhm.
their own do's and don'ts so that they reinforce the healthy part of the person and they don't reinforce the pathological part of the person.
Yeah, that's very
And
important.
criticizing the patient and pouncing upon him is the surest way to accelerate the pathology even more.
Mm.
They will also, the family members also will have to help the person if they are in such position so that he is able to collect a basket of holistic healing tools. He is able to go to social support groups. He is able to do some social work. And all of this involves time, energy, and cost. Nothing is free. The person may have to trade off between giving the same time and energy to the occupation and giving the same for one's own healing. But there is no way out. Because if these things one does not practice, the healing process does not accelerate as much as we want it to. And lastly, there may be many people who, when they come to the core, may not be able to go further. And the
Mm.
healing may stop at some point. And one may have to accept that the person does not have the constitutional capacity or the conscious will to experience very intense affects and go further. So one may be looking at stopping at 75% of healing, and rest of it one has to go by acceptance that this is what it is, given my constitution and my conscious readiness to not feel very intense effects. Because when we go deep into the cause of it, the cause has to be felt and lived through.
Mm.
And in the early childhood, because the cause was unbearable, you use defenses to jump into a personality disorder. Now,
Mm.
if the situation is still the same, that the original cause is still unbearable, then one may have to look at a situation where one has to accept that healing will have to stop at 50%, at 60%, at 75%. And lastly, uh, they have to be, the caregivers have to be careful enough that they don't develop secondary problems of anger or gloom or pain or depression or anxiety in the course of this healing, because it is going to be a roller coaster ride for many people
True.
and a long term affair. So,
Mm.
all this can be much better managed if the parents are adequately psychoeducated and they are ready to understand, be positive, and support.
So, in society, as therapists, as healers, as social support groups, as acquaintances, as family, and as caregivers, we must understand that what Mr. Vaidya had shared in previous discussions, that personality disorders are something to do with a structural change. It's not just like mere interior decoration where you just fix up things on the surface. So that brings us that awareness of how we can contribute in the collective healing. Thank you so much, Mr. Vedya, for sharing your expert views and understanding of DSM disorders related to personality. Thank you so much. So, we have covered today three personality disorders. In the subsequent videos, we will be covering other disorders from DSM 5 in the same way. Do watch our coming videos and write to us at hvindia@gmail.com. Namaste.
Thanks.